Podcast. I'm your host, Matthew J. Hoff, and as always, guys, try to subscribe everywhere you can find podcasts: Spotify, YouTube, Rumble, Amazon, iHeartRadio, including now Roku, believe it or not. We're going to get things rolling here. I'm going to be moving the show, guys, to a new time. Sunday nights at 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. Eastern Time. That's when we're going to move the show. I don't know, it's just like, I felt like 3 to 5 is a little too early for everybody. I think we'll get more viewers and listeners to participate a lot more that way. So I just wanted to throw that out there real quick. Before we get into things here, I want to introduce our audience and listeners today. We have a big show. I've been planning this. It's been months in the making. We have a great treat for our listeners and viewers here today. For those who are kind of religious, or even if you're not religious, if you are into this kind of thing, I know it's a heavy topic for some. It's a scary topic. It's a deep topic, but we're going to try to make light of it, of course, with everybody's perspective and input, and I'm sure everybody will be very informative with their backgrounds. So before I ramble on here about that, Out of This World Podcast is excited to have best-selling author Ryan Speakman and Joel Richardson. They both are involved in ministry work, and Joel Richardson has a new book he just put out, Gospel of the Skull Crusher, by Joel Richardson. I just want to throw that out there. We have Miss Annalie Mawire. I hope I pronounced her name correctly.
Very close.
All right. Close is better than not getting it close. From Faith and Friction Podcast. It's a great podcast. I suggest you guys check it out. They're a fun group of people. They're very educational in this topic. I've listened to quite a few episodes. I think it's great. And of course, we have Ryan Speakman. He's got several books, which I happen to own personally. I've read all three. These Final Days, Part 1, 2, and 3. The Truth About the Rapture. And Ryan, what I like about your background is that you actually go visit some of these sites and do physical research. You go out there in the field, and I love that you put that in your work. And I've interviewed you in the past, and Ryan, what I like about your background is that you actually go visit some of these sites to share with our audience and listeners. So this way we have some good luck for the show, because we all know how things can. God, to follow your call to love and serve more fully than many will understand. In your name I pray. Amen.
Amen. Good prayer, Matt.
Yeah. Guys, welcome to the show, Out of This World Podcast. I'm so excited to have everybody here. Welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Happy to be here.
Yeah, Joel, congratulations on your new book. Can you give a little brief background about your book, what people can expect when they purchase you? A little brief background about your book, what people can expect when they purchase your new book?
Sure, yeah. So kind of a unusual title, The Gospel of the Skull Crusher. Obviously, or maybe not obviously, it's rooted in what's called the Proto-Evangelion, which simply means the first gospel. That's actually Genesis 3:15. As soon as the fall had happened in the garden, the Lord declares to the serpent that someone is coming who's going to crush the head of the serpent. He's going to crush the head of the snake. The inference being that Satan's going to sort of get his tail handed to him, and that the curse will someday be reversed, that Eden will be restored. And so beginning with that, I follow that narrative throughout Scripture. Really what it is just a survey of messianic prophecy. So, what is the gospel if we're just studying what the Bible says about Jesus and all of the promises that God makes about him? So it's a very sort of visceral, almost poetic telling of these things. It's not just theology, it's really told in story form. Very different than anything I've done, and I filled it with pictures, so I'm real excited.
Nice.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, illustrations are always great, to go along with that. Great. Yeah, congrats on that. Annalie, if you don't mind, tell our listeners and viewers a little bit about Faith and Friction Podcast, your colleagues there, kind of the things, a little bit what you do on the show, and maybe just tell a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so faith and friction, we confront the challenging conversations that cause friction in the church. That's our tagline. There's 4 of us that really love to dig into, especially for this younger generation, talk about topics that the church shies away from, but they really are eager to hear about. So we go into end times, we go into just political issues, AI, science, but they really are eager to hear about. So we go into end times, we go into just political issues, AI will hopefully come out.
Be getting into that. Joel, been following your ministry for years. I think you're my father-in-law's favorite. I should be his favorite, but yours favorite. And Lee, I have to admit, I'm so sorry, but I hadn't heard of you and your podcast before Matt put this together. But when I announced this, like all the Gen Z people who follow my minute were like, "Oh my gosh, we love Emily." Went and checked out your podcast, and you guys are top notch. Your whole panel, you guys are really good. So anyway, so about me. Yeah, I felt the call to this topic way back in 1977 when I was 10 years old. And, believe it or not, that was, what's it been, 40-something years now, right? But going on 50 years. And I've been, researching, studying, since that time. I started actively teaching and writing about 1999. And, kind of the second that my fingers hit the keyboard, I knew what the core focus of my teaching ministry would be. It's the whole thing, all of eschatology, every possible angle. But the core is the timing of the rapture. So that might be more important to me than it is to anybody else on the panel here. I'm not sure, but to me, that's kind of like the central point of the whole thing. Because, eschatology is amazing, but if we're not going to be here for all this stuff, it's kind of academic, kind of for entertainment purposes only for us. But if we are going to be here for all the things that the Bible prophesies and et cetera, we need to be ready. We need to be aware. We need to keep watching and praying and stay filled continuously with the Holy Spirit. So that's my main shtick.
Amen. Amen to that. Yeah, that's what I want this show to kind of be about today is awareness, education, teaching. There's not, I think, like so many like misinformation, misguidance, people not teaching the correct things out there. Like Annalise said, it's important to get the younger generation more involved and, get them, on the right path. And I myself are kind of into this subject because my mother and I, when I was younger, we used to have this conversation. Her and her boyfriend years ago were very much into their own research and digging for their own truth of the end times and preparing us, when we were young. And my mom and I used to talk about it all the time. And like now that I'm older and I'm more of an adult and like getting more into the research heavily, being a paranormal investigator, that type of research I'm involved with. And it's funny because sometimes I go to Ryan for verification on certain things. I'm like, did you hear about this? Did you hear about that? And I even go to my mother today and I'm like, well, what do you think of this? What do you think of that? So I'm trying to piece together all the current events and the timeline of things. And I thought it'd be a great idea to do around certain things. I'm like, did you hear about this? Did you hear about that? And I even go to my mother today and I'm like, well, what do you think of this? What do you think of that? So I'm trying to piece together all the. Basically, I gave you guys a questionnaire that I put together for you guys to kind of overlook like a outline of what we were going to discuss. I don't know if I put it in a particular order per se, so it may be a little bit out of place here and there. So just bear with me with that because there's just so much information to put out there today. So just bear with me. But as far as the timeline goes, I'm just sharing a slide here. Basically, the rapture of the church, Christ comes in the clouds to snatch away all those who trust him. At this same time, the dead in Christ will be resurrected, taken to heaven too. From our perspective today, this is the next event, eschatological timeline, the rapture.
Hey, Matt? Yeah. I'm so sorry to interrupt. Did you mean to put up a slide?
Yeah.
We're not seeing a slide.
Oh, you're not?
Nope. Can't see the slide.
Okay. All right.
I'm all into it here, so.
All right. Yeah. I'm sorry if you guys don't see it. Hopefully the audience will see it. I think they'll.
Oh, okay, good enough.
Yeah. They'll see it. I believe so. So if anybody could just message me and make sure that they're seeing it okay, that'd be great. So if I could make sure they're seeing it okay. So my apologies if people don't. All right. So one person says sound keeps cutting in and out. All right. We'll try to work on that. Yeah, the stream, I see the stream where it says where it's streaming. It is cutting in and out, so bear with us as that's going in and out. I have no control over that, unfortunately. It's just technology the way it is. So anyway, guys, the timeline of things. First the rapture is like, are we at tribulations to the timeline? Like, are we at the beginning? Where do you guys think we are at? We'll start with Annalie. Ladies, go first. That I think was part of my questionnaire. The timeline of things. Where do you think we're at right now?
I think we are. Of course, we're seeing tribulations play out right now.
Okay.
One thing I want to say before we get started. I don't know your audience, but one thing, one of the verses that gets presented to me and why people don't look into end times is the verse of no one knows the day or the hour. And so I just wanted to start with the reason why we should look into end time stuff, because Matthew 24:36 says no one knows the day or the hour. But if you do a word study on day or hour in the Greek, that is hemera and ora, which means a literal day and a literal hour. So although we may not know the literal day or the literal hour, given the hundreds of passages in the Bible on end time prophecy, God wants us to know the time of his coming, and he wants us to be prepared. He says that in 1 Thessalonians 5 that they'll say he will come as a thief in the night. But if you continue reading in those verses, he says, but you, brethren, are not in darkness, that day should overtake you as a thief. And so we are called to be prepared, to be awakened to the time we're living in, to be sober-minded. And so I do believe that there are tribulations right now facing, it says you will face tribulations in this life. The Great Tribulation, I think, is a little bit different than that, and I'm really eager to hear what Ryan and Joel have to say on that. But I don't believe we have hit the Great Tribulation period just yet.
Okay.
Agreed.
Yeah. Joel, you want to go on that?
Yeah, no, I'm in agreement. There is a lot of, look, on YouTube.
Agreed.
Yeah. Joel, you want to go on that?
Yeah, no, I'm in agreement. There is a lot of, look, on YouTube and just about anything, but there is sort of a growing. And when I say tribulation, what I'm referring to, being fairly general, is the final 7-year period before the return of Jesus. Now, to be real technical, I think it's only really the last 3.5 years that constitutes the Great Tribulation. But we're not in Daniel's final seven years. I don't believe that. There are many who believe not only that we're in this final period, they actually believe we're in the final 3.5 years. I don't believe there's any biblical justification for that whatsoever.
No.
There, as Annalie said, there's plenty of tribulations. Tribulations are what all Christians should expect to face day to day. But as far as the Great Tribulation goes, no, we're absolutely not there yet.
Okay. And Ryan?
Yeah, totally agree with these two. Yeah. Like you guys already, we're going to be friends. Yeah, for sure. So, like both the other guests were saying, a lot of rumor out there, we're in the Great Tribulation already. Joel's right that when Jesus, coined the term Great Tribulation, he was specifically talking about that last, 3.5 years, the last half of what we call Daniel's 70th week, right? That last 7-year period. I think we say Great Tribulation, meaning 7 years, just kind of a shorthand, because that makes more sense to people than, Daniel's 70th week, what's that, right? But basically, so, according to Daniel 9:27, there's this, final 7-year period, and the beginning of which seems to be, well, I shouldn't say seems to be, clearly is, the signing of a peace treaty that looks like it's going to allow for the rebuilding of the Jewish Holy Temple, the Beit HaMikdash, what we call the Third Temple. and the Antichrist, we get the very strong impression from that and surrounding verses that he's very much involved in this process. We confirm that more when we talk to the Jews themselves. I don't want to get too much into that. Love the Jewish people more than I could possibly say that, God's chosen people, et cetera, et cetera. If we get too much in the weeds of this stuff, it can get, dicey as far as. But anyways, so there's really, we're definitely not in the 7-year period. I think that the 7-year period, I think actually begins with the 7 trumpets. So when the first trumpet blows, that's the beginning of that 7-year period approximately. Nothing in the Bible, pins that specifically to the beginning of the 7-year treaty. But that's actually what looks like very clearly to me is a major cosmic impact event. A third of the sea becomes like blood, a third of the sea life dies, a third of the fresh water is poisoned, all the green grass around the earth, burns up. So if we take all that literally, which clearly to me is a major cosmic impact event. It's really interesting. It's really interesting. Very shortly after the time of Christ, when the second would begin at the beginning of the last 7,000 years. Or the way that we would say it as Christians is that Jesus would come back at that 2,000-year mark, past the time of Yosef ben Halafta. And, there's been like adjustments to the numbers. Sir Isaac Newton worked on this. Johannes Kepler worked on this, right? Martin Luther worked on it. And there has been a consensus for a very long time that the end times would take place, let me just say it bluntly, right around our time right now. Right around the year 2000, a little bit into it. So are we in the last days? A lot of different ways to look at it. And any way you look at it, in my opinion, 100%.
Wow.
Let me add to that. There's been a YouTube channel that opened up, I guess it's been a couple of years now, maybe 2 years ago, called Tribulation, or what's it called? Messiah 2030. And so what Ryan is speaking of is, arguably, you can make a case that the apostles believed this. You can make a case. It's not really clear, but it clearly was something that was pretty widely discussed among the early church fathers. You can make a case that the apostles believed this. But it clearly was something that was pretty widely discussed among the early church. Usually just call it Chiliasm, millennialism, but history is broken up between really 6,000 years, at the end of which we enter into the seventh day, the 7,000 year, which is the millennium, and we're just about there. Now, chronology is difficult. Obviously, you have the Jewish calendar, then you have the Dead Sea Scrolls calendar, Bishop Usher, you've got all these different calendars.
Yes.
And the reality is we don't know exactly what year it is. There's reasons when you have various kings with same names and different things in history, and there's periods where we've lost years. But this is very popular right now in the end time community. A lot of people are saying the Messiah is going to return in 2030. The problem with that is, again, you've got this 7-year period, which would mean that the final 7 years would have had to have begun in 2023. And there's really no evidence for that. There's nothing to point to. So, and I've seen this over the years, what happens is when folks set a date, set a timeline, they begin adjusting their theology to accommodate it. So usually what they'll do is they say, well, it was never supposed to be 7 years, it's only 3.5 years. That's all Daniel was talking about, Daniel 9:20, it's only 3.5 years. This type of thing, it's really biblically indefensible. There is a contiguous final 7-year period in the middle of which the abomination that causes desolation is set up on the Temple Mount. That is definitive timing marker. That is when the Antichrist is revealed. There's a possibility that the beginning of the 7 years could happen, and we might not be fully aware. We might be debating it on shows like this. But when it comes to the abomination, we will absolutely know it. So one little last point on that I'll make is there's really 2 dates for the death, burial, and resurrection and ascension of Jesus. And so some believe it was in 30 AD, other scholars are, and that's really the majority opinion, but there are some that make a good case for 33 AD, in which case, if it was 33 AD, and if all of our chronology is right, then it is possible that the 7 years could begin as early as next year, which would give us that 7-year window. It's definitely something to watch for. We just, with all of these things, whether it be that, the 7,000 years or all of these different things, I think we pay attention to them, we become aware of them, we try to poke holes, and we're just open, that they could come to pass or they might not. And so it's, we can't get real dogmatic about these things.
Okay. All right. We lost Annalie there for a little bit, but she's back.
All right.
Yeah, no worries. As long as you're back, that's the main thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, go ahead.
Sorry, I was listening. I heard everything you said, and I love that because
no worries. As long as you're back, that's the main thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, go ahead.
Sorry, I was listening. I heard everything you said, and I love that because I view it more as a roadmap than actually a timeline. And so these events that take place, it kind of dominoes, right, that are taking place without having set a specific time there. Because I agree with y'all that theology, you can try to change your theology to fit a certain timeline that sometimes doesn't work out. So.
Right, and Jesus said, watch, and when you see all these signs taking place, you see all these things happening, look up. There's, literally hundreds of little details to kind of watch for, to at least know that it's near. And I know that none of us here would, dare, do any date setting at this point. I'm going to throw out a really crazy idea, though, if it's okay, and it's just a thought.
Yeah.
But if the Daniel 927 peace treaty is exactly 2,520 days long, and at the exact halfway mark of that, which is 1,260 days, that's when we see the abomination of desolation. Then if we count forward from that day, another 1,260 days, or maybe 1,290 or 1,335. That's Daniel chapter 12. I still haven't decided yet where I land there. Probably closer to the bigger number. So if we count, 1,335 days forward from that moment, like Joel was just saying, that it'll be indisputable. None of us will be discussing or debating at all. Those of us who are paying attention. That guy who just took over the temple in Jerusalem, I mean, come on, that's the abomination of desolation. Then in that moment, I guess we would be able to set an actual date to Jesus' return. Just an idea, but hasn't happened, abomination of desolation. Then in that moment, I guess we would be able to set an actual date to Jesus' return. Just an idea. Yet they haven't broken yet. Start marking,
Yeah, that's a huge marker for sure.
Yeah, a little bit.
Do write it down. Like the guy in his jail cell.
Yes, exactly.
Don't have phone. Gonna just
marking days.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I just want to just quickly, guys, apologize to our viewers and listeners. The Wi-Fi is breaking up, in and out. It's green lit and then it goes red, so it's in and out. But Restream is showing that it is streaming, so if it cuts in and out, I have no control over that. That's just the internet. For whatever reason, that's what it's doing. But my apologies.
And hopefully, Matt, that you get a good recording on YouTube, and then people can watch the show again later.
Yeah, they can always watch it later. Yeah, absolutely. That's the great thing about YouTube. That's why I stream it there. Anyways, my next big question for you guys is, because there's just so many different religions, the end times is a big belief of Christianity, Catholic, just Jewish, Jerusalem, all that. Is it widely recognized by all religions, or is it just mostly condensed to a few religions? Is it widely notable across all religions? Whoever wants to shoot first.
Excellent questions.
I'll let you guys jump in. I'm going to pause my thing, and I'll be back in less than 30 seconds.
Okay.
And I like the ladies' first idea. So, Annalie, what do you think? It's a great question, Matt, by the way.
Yeah, it is a great question. the three major religions that I see are Christianity, Islam, and Judaism. And one interesting thing about all of them is they have Jerusalem as the very center of their prophetic vision. So it's interesting that this tiny piece of real estate has, for these three main, one interesting thing about all of them is they have Jerusalem as the very center of their prophetic vision. So it's interesting that this tiny piece is in all three of those major religions.
Yeah, excellent. Joel, you want to go?
Yeah, so I just ran in my library. So, I mean, I'm pretty well known. My first book that became a New York Times bestseller, it was actually a comparison between, just in a very general sense, what the Bible teaches about the end times with what Islam teaches. And so, you know, I've just grabbed a handful. I actually have a huge library. These are all books about the end times written by Muslim authors. Armageddon, an Islamic perspective. In fact, I would actually say that Muslims today, I mean, you know, you can go on YouTube, as much as there's this whole sort of Christian end time discussion culture, there's a massive Islamic, you know, discussion of these things. And the Islamic world is just as much gripped and fascinated right now, believing that their prophecies are all coming into alignment. In fact, it was the single greatest sort of recruiting tool for ISIS. That's now 14 years ago. You know, we have roughly, I always make this little statistical point, we have roughly 4,000 Protestant missionaries right now in the Islamic world, you know, who have been sent from various nations. ISIS was able to recruit over 40,000 kids in a few months. Wow. When they announced their caliphate, and these were kids that burnt their passports, fled from places like Germany and, you know, Albania, all over the place, you know, risked their lives crossing the border from Turkey, sneaking in to join the caliphate. This guy here, this is a big book, Harun Yahya, his real name is Adnan Oktar. He's actually doing a 9,000-year stint in Turkish prison right now. But he gave me this book years ago, and he's essentially arguing that he doesn't come right out and say it, but it's clear that he's arguing that he is the Islamic sort of Messiah figure. So it's going to be, we'll see. As I said, he's got 9,000 years in prison.
Yeah. And speaking of the Messiah figure, real quick, guys, I want to throw, because this is a big topic that's been trending right now, which is, I'm going to show this slide to our audience. I know, again, apologies that you guys can't see it, but I know the audience sees it. I just had somebody, you know, say that they can see the slide. So there's a lot of, again, false prophets, right? There's a lot of people out there that, you know, there's a lot of boxes checked at certain individuals out there, but there's one in particular. Ryan, I know you've been researching this gentleman, and I hate to disappoint.
I've been obsessed with him.
Yeah, I hate to disappoint people, but it's not Obama, Trump, Biden. It's not Putin. Just throwing that out there. Yeah, I have some pictures here with like red X's across their pictures, so just to kind of, you know, joke around a little there. But you know. Yeah, so Ryan, I know you've been researching this topic a lot with Ahmad, and if you guys don't mind real quick, hopefully this works for the audience. I'm going to play, can I have permission to play your video off of these Final Days Ministries YouTube channel?
Of course.
Okay, I want to play this real quick for everybody.
I know you won't play the whole thing because it's like an hour and a half long.
Yeah, no. All right, let's go to this slide here. All right.
I can't wait to talk to Joel about this. I'm going to make a comment about he knows this guy.
Yeah. All right.
I was afraid he was going to pull up that the fellow, the beanie.
In Egypt. Oh God. Yeah, the Egypt guy. Yeah, what a joke. Here's a hint: anyone who claims to be the Mahdi is not the Mahdi. I don't think at this stage, right? Or the Mashiach, the Jewish Mashiach. This is going to just creep up on everybody. So, but yeah, while Matt is working on that, he's talking about Ahmad al-Shara, and it's such an incredibly, you know, horrible thing to like pin the label, you know, Antichrist on anybody So I'm not doing that. I'm just saying that he caught my attention on December.
Translation, and then you assign each letter numbers, add them up, and there you go. There's the number 666. All right. So to give background, Al Galani, he is checking a lot of boxes. This is what made my brother start looking. My twin brother Ryan runs a very tiny ministry called These Final Days. Well, it's not so tiny. He's got international followers, but it began tiny, of course, like they all do. So my twin brother began looking at this guy, and this is the first guy that my twin has, and he's been doing this ministry about the end times prophecies in the Bible, in other face eschatologies, I'll tell you why in a moment, and in other corollary texts like Irenaeus. I'll explain more in a second. He's been doing this for years. He's never ever looked at anyone as a candidate for the Antichrist. So this guy comes into Syria, Al Galani, and he starts ticking boxes. If you want to learn more about which boxes he's ticking, please check out These Final Days on Facebook, and I think also on YouTube, and watch the the recorded class that he taught last Thursday. Today is Tuesday, December 24th, 2024, Christmas Eve 2024. That's when I'm filming this. So he did a class last Thursday, whatever date that was. And in that class, if you look it up on These Final Days on YouTube or Facebook, you'll see all the other boxes that Al Galani is ticking. It's not trivial. And also please do tune in. His next class is Thursday, I think January 9th.
Get up here and there. Guys, did you hear that at all or no?
And can I kind of comment, kind of follow up real
go ahead.
here?
Yep.
So, Joel, I just saw what you posted in the chat there. Irenaeus, yeah, okay. Anyways, and I just posted a screenshot of where I currently am with Al Shara Ahmad al-Shara, formerly known as Abu Muhammad al-Golani, or Jolani. And I think I'm up to 22 or 23 checkboxes now. And honestly, I have worked so hard over the last, 25, 26 years, to have integrity and have intellectual, honesty and all that. So what I've really been doing since December 8th is everything I can to disqualify this guy. Like, I'm just watching him. Okay, what's he going to do next that's going to, prove that he can't be the Antichrist? Everybody just relax. He's not the Jewish Mashiach, the Muslim Mahdi, all the same person, at least for the Jews, for a very short time. When he commits the abomination of desolation, we all know they obviously come to their senses. That's not their Messiah. Really trying to disqualify him. He's not. Matt, I don't know if you can grab that screenshot and show it to your users, but Joel and Annalie, I'm particularly about where we are on the timeline. So, okay, enough for me.
All right. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I
Go ahead.
very much agree. I'm sorry for jumping in. But no, I very much agree with you. And so I also am good friends and work with some friends with what's called the Emmaus Wire. Gabe Caligiuri does a lot of geopolitical and prophetic commentary. And absolutely. And look, we all do it. All of us do it. But yeah, it's Jolani is his sort of nom de guerre. So however you say it in French.
Yeah.
But he does check a lot of the boxes. I'm always cautious of Antichrist pointing. I think I mentioned perhaps in that video, there was a guy that he had been around for many years, I mean like 20 years. He was absolutely confident that Bashar al-Assad was the Antichrist, even to the point where some of his followers would get angry with you if you didn't agree with that. And I would say, well, time will tell on all of these things. Definitely not something we should ever argue about, but looking at this guy, he does check a lot of the boxes. One of the things that sort of set me apart as a bit controversial, the nature of the prophecy. They think, well, they just approach and they all get destroyed, but it doesn't say that. They eventually are judged. But also because these are Middle Eastern and North African nations, and there's the nature of the prophecy. They think, well, they just approach and they all get destroyed, but it doesn't say that. They eventually are judged. But about it, I did just post some quotes from first Irenaeus, then Hippolytus, and Lactantius. So you're dealing with three early church theologians, all of which who affirm that the Antichrist will come from the region of Syria. Now, of course, the nation, the boundary lines change a bit over the years, but the point is, Syria, okay, in the same way that Iran has used Hezbollah, and they use the Houthis, and they use all of these different, and Hamas as their junkyard dogs, as their proxies, Turkey does the same thing. Syria is now an extension, a proxy of Turkey. And so in some ways, they're almost, Turkey and Syria, people have said, wow, Turkey now has borders with Israel. You think of them as almost an entity. So I agree with you. He's definitely someone to watch. I always want to be careful about these type of things, but there's a lot of paying attention, including the nature of how he has emerged. The guy was the leader of essentially ISIS in Syria just a couple of years ago, and now he's being received.
Al-Qaeda. He started al-Nusra.
Al-Nusra, al-Shams, or whatever they ended up calling it.
Yeah.
It's just ISIS, Al-Qaeda. There's not much of a difference.
Yeah.
Joel, you have a much bigger ministry than me, so you can't afford to go as crazy as I do, so I could have all the fun. Annalie, I'm really curious about your thoughts and your team's thoughts. Do you guys talk about the Antichrist at all? Like,
we do. We see it more as we will know once he stops the sacrifices, and so that anything before that is really just speculation that we believe. But one thing I want to hear y'all's thoughts on this is him linked to the Nephilim. Do y'all have any study on that?
Nephilim.
Go ahead, Joel, please.
Go ahead.
I do, but yeah, go ahead, Joel.
You guys are probably better experts than I am.
I personally am a little bit less exciting in this area. This has sort of been the, first of all, I'm very grateful for men like Dr. Michael Heifer, who really brought the issue of Genesis 6 and the giants and the prevalence of that throughout the Old Testament narrative to the forefront. Everyone's excited. But really, everyone jumps from this one statement that says, as it was in the days of Noah, so it will be. And so there's a lot of arguments that the Nephilim are going to come back and this type of thing. I don't personally believe that. The next statement is just says people will be marrying and giving in marriage. So it explains what it means. It doesn't mean that every single thing that existed before the flood is going to come back. It says in 2 Peter that these spirits are locked up in these gloomy dungeons until the day of judgment. I think you can make a case that some of these, the opening of the abyss, that a lot of the supernatural stuff's going to come back, but as a guy who is below average in height, I'm just trying to develop a solid theological case that they're not going to bring the giants back, but I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
But
can I add to that real quick? I'm sorry. I just wanted to add that I believe in Revelations that they also speak about not necessarily Nephilim or notably saying that name, but it speaks of celestial beings coming to visit. So I'm not sure if it's like connected with Nephilim per se, but it could be, along the terms of that. I don't know if that's, accurate or not.
So, yeah, and I think that gets even more dicey when we get into...
accurate or not.
So, yeah, and I think that gets even more dicey when we get into that aspect of Revelation because, it is established at the very, very start, Revelation chapter 1, verse 1, it's a prophecy of actual things, people, places, events, right? But it's presented in symbolic terms, so it's a little trickier there. So, the Nephilim thing, if I had to bet $1 on it, I would take Joel's side on this.
Yeah.
And I always try to be grounded and rooted and, let's not get all carried away. And oh my gosh, the Nephilim, right? UFOs, all that. That said, I just did like a 6-week long, teaching on this. I only teach every other week, so that's not like a lot, but on the idea that is it plausible that the Antichrist will in fact be the physical offspring of Satan himself? It's crazy. I mean, we're not the first ones to talk about this. You remember back in the 70s, Rosemary's Baby and The Omen. I mean, this is even in Hollywood. They get this concept. And Joel, so and again, believe me, I think this is like far out there, but worth kind of discussing, right? So your new book, The Gospel of the Skull Crusher, and Baby and The Omen. I mean, get this concept. I so but what catches my attention there, so Ann Lee, this is to get your question, is the way that God's curse on Satan in the garden, the serpent in the garden, is phrased. So God says, and your seed, talking to the serpent, your seed will be enmity with her seed, and you shall bruise his heel, and he shall bruise your head. Right, the skull crusher. I love that title, by the way. But Joel, of course, and Ann Lee, you probably do too. But the word seed there in the Hebrew is zera. I maybe pronounced it wrong, and that can actually be translated as sperm or semen. So this is why a lot of scholars have said actually, was created in Mary's womb, and in that case it was supernatural. It wasn't a physical event. Something physical took place, obviously, because it wasn't just her DNA got copied, as Jesus would have been a female, among other things. So obviously there was some new DNA introduced into Mary's womb, right? But if her seed is a prophecy of Jesus coming in physical form as the actual physical progeny of God himself, the Holy Spirit, then what if your seed, talking to the serpent, kind of means the same thing? Does Satan have semen, sperm? I mean, we know that angels, when they came down in Noah's day, Book of Enoch, if you guys believe that, I suspect you do. Jesus taught from it. It's quoted by his brother Jude verbatim, right? Very, very explicitly, clearly says, yes, angels came down and had physical sex with human women, produced physical offspring. So for me, is this a salvation issue for us? No. Is it an interesting point you might be able to? I'm looking at this guy in Damascus right now, and what am I suggesting? That maybe he, and I'm just not. I'm just talking here, that's all.
Yeah.
Just having fun.
I do believe there's a definite conditioning in the population today for this alien invasion. And so if this Antichrist and this dragon, they're going to perform all these miracles, and to me, it would make sense that they would say that this is a type of alien, something in that kind of realm. So I was just really interested to hear y'all's thoughts. The scripture says that they were there in those days and also afterwards. So
Yes.
I may be different in belief, but I do think that the seed war has to do with that. And in Revelation 13 describes the beast as one who has authority from the dragon and Satan himself. So there could be a point there that this could be like possibly genetically linked in some way.
Right.
Yeah. I said if I was betting money, I'd go with Joel, but honestly, I just feel like I'm leaning toward that. I mean, you're right, Ann Lee. It didn't just happen once. I mean, once is enough to prove that.
From the dragon and Satan himself.
Or three brothers showing up again in 1 Samuel, the story of King David. So it almost looks like this thing of angels mating with human women, producing physical offspring that we call Nephilim, the giants. That it looks like maybe it's happened at least 3 times in human history. So is it plausible that prophecy in Genesis chapter 3 really is describing that to us? Hey, that's going to happen again, only in your time it's going to be Satan himself who pulls this off.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, 30 more seconds. This alien connection, Ann Lee, I mean, that's kind of out there, you're getting kind of woohoo, right? 100%. I mean, the UFOs, aliens, there's something to it. I mean, come on, statistically, there's got to be something. They're not physical in terms of our dimension. They're interdimensional. Their craft moves in ways that is physically impossible in our realm, right? And what's the number one thing they do with the abductees? Reproductive experiments. It's interesting. It's worth kind of keeping an eye on. Hugh Ross, Lights in the Sky and Little Green Man. Excellent book. Highly recommended. There you go.
Yeah. Yeah, just real quick, guys, to add further to that, Annalie, what you brought up with the Nephilim and stuff. I think what's trending right now is because in social media and the news, especially Harvard scientists are all over that interstellar object that apparently came into our universe in the outer space. They recently, captured some kind of image of some kind of, celestial object they think that could be unnatural. They said it doesn't have characteristics of an asteroid, doesn't have characteristics of a comet. It's actually emitting some kind of its own water, some kind of water spewing from the object itself. Scientists from Harvard say it could be something. They don't know what it is for sure, but for Harvard to come out and point out that it could possibly be alien artifact, who knows? But I think that's sparking that theory or those debates. But there's also things all over the world that archaeologists are finding over in Antarctica. There's a lot of wild theories and conspiracies in Antarctica about big giant, frozen entities, trapped under ice, all kinds of wild conspiracies with the Nephilim and all that stuff. But I think that's a current trend right now with all the current archaeology, that's going on right now. Go ahead, Joel. I didn't mean to step on you there.
No, I apologize. Well, 2 things. One, again, if you were listening to Dr. Heiser, he would say, if you ask your average evangelical what's wrong with the world, they'll just say the fall. Adam and Eve, they ate forbidden fruit and this type of thing. And that's absolutely true. That's one of the primary ways the scriptures describe, the event that brought sin, death, corruption, the curse into our existence, but there's also, again, Genesis 6 and the sons of God going into the daughters of men and the Nephilim and this type of thing. So what's cool, and this is something a lot of people miss, is in the story of the two into our existence, but there's also, again, Genesis 6 and the sons of God going into the daughters of men and the Nephilim and this type of thing. So what's cool, and this is something a lot of people miss, is in the story of the two. So Goliath is the embodiment. Oh, it's very much speculation. Was the place where David had buried the skull of Goliath, and that Jesus is actually crucified. There's a few different, theories in terms of why it's called the place of the skull. I will just add one other thing as a caution. And this is important because with all of this discussion today, mostly in the prophecy world about the issue of the Nephilim and this type of thing, is just to be aware that, you had this guy, William Branham, last century, this very sort of famous healing prophet, evangelist in the charismatic Pentecostal world. In light of all the stuff that I've been dealing with the past couple of years with a lot of these fraudulent ministers, have done a lot of deep dives into William Branham. He was an absolute fraud. He was a member of the early revision of the KKK, and one of his main doctrines that he and his assistant taught, and was widely believed by the Ku Klux Klan, was that black people are the seed of the serpent. And so the danger, this is always my caution whenever we say there's people walking around with satanic DNA. Now, maybe the Antichrist as a kind of a one-off type of thing, I don't know. It's just, I'm always so leery of saying that, because then what happens is people start going, oh, they look at you funny. Well, you don't believe this, so maybe you're, DNA. Now, maybe the Antichrist as a kind of a one-off type of thing, I don't know. It's just
iota of Nephilim DNA, on Earth right now among the human race, unless I'm right about the guy in Damascus. But yeah, because God, what's God done? He's taken, great, gigantic measures to ensure that they're wiped out whenever they show up. Noah's flood, the Israelites coming in, King David. So I just don't think God would tolerate it,
Yeah.
So
yeah. My next outline I have on our questionnaire there is physical evidence of the end times, like actual physical things that we can actually see, hear, touch, like physical evidence of things. I know Ryan's been doing a lot of that type of research. I don't know about Joel and Anna Lee, but the type of physical evidence that I'm referring to as I play this slide here, like for example, it mentions in Revelation, the Euphrates River. There's a part in Revelation where it says, and the sixth angel poured out his bowl on the great river Euphrates, and its water was dried up to prepare the way for the kings of the east. Revelation 16:12. For Euphrates, and its water was dried up to prepare the way for the kings of the east. Revelation 16:12. And here's a slide of a picture of the Euphrates River of before, what it looked like many years back, and what it looks like now. There's a before and after picture there, which is to me is like crazy, like how much that it's actually drying up. And if it's actually drying up, to me, this is like an example of physical evidence, that I bring up.
So who wants to go first?
Yeah, whoever wants to go.
I actually jumped in Lake Mosul there a few years ago.
Oh my gosh.
Iraq.
You've been to Mosul?
Well, just north of it.
What, Lailash? Sinjar?
We had driven over to Dohuk, and then we were sort of cutting back through the desert, so we didn't go all the way to Sinjar. But
okay. I'll have to ping you later if you don't mind, Joel, because that's my next research trip.
Nice.
Or maybe my one after that. My next research trip is Damascus, but anyways. Yeah. But Ann Lee, would you like to go first? Commenting on
go for it. I feel like, sounded like you have some research on that.
Well, here's the thing. So Matt, he sends me this stuff a lot, like he says, right? And he's being nice because I always come back and kind of shoot it down, no, that's cool, Matt, but right. And this, this is an example of that. So yeah, for sure. Revelation chapter 16, the Euphrates River, dries up to make way for the kings of the east, and it's kind of like the final battle in the War of Armageddon. That's what they're headed there for. So it's a big event, right? And incidentally, and I think you guys know this, but that's the only place in the entire prophecy portion of the Book of Revelation where we have red ink. So Jesus actually gives a little quote there. He says, "Behold, I am coming quickly," which is another point in our favor, post-tribulation rapture, because why is Jesus saying, "Behold, I'm coming quickly," toward the end of the Great Tribulation? Anyways, I had to do a mic drop there with that. So I live in Lake Havasu City, Arizona, and we call it Arizona's West Coast. I'm right on the Colorado River. I can see California out my window. God help me. Sorry. Love California. What's interesting is that if you look at maps or read studies of the Colorado River, it's going to look like identical to what's happening with the Euphrates. So I think what's happening in the Euphrates is kind of a type and foreshadow, like Romans chapter 8, all of creation groans for the redemption of the sons of man, because nature is tired of us messing up this world, which of course we're going to do, in our fallen state, right?
Yeah.
But what's actually happening right now with the Euphrates is the same thing with my river, our river. It's, there is climate change. People can fight, I'm an evangelical Christian. I'm not supposed to believe in climate change. Climate change is happening. What's the cause? We could debate that, right? I think it's humans. We're in a fallen state. We messed up. We're mismanaging this wonderful world that God gave us. Jesus will come back. We'll start to fix that, right? It's also mismanagement of the waterways. It's definitely overuse. That's happening in Iraq. It's happening, here in the American Southwest. So I don't think that's Revelation chapter 16 at all, because the event in Revelation chapter 16 seems to be a direct result of the seven trumpets, which begin the Great Tribulation, that major cosmic impact event, and right in the same context of the Euphrates drying up in Revelation chapter 16, we have the seas turn to blood, all the fish die. It's 1/3 of the seas in the beginning of the tribulation. By that time, it's the entire ocean. 1/3 of the fresh water in the beginning. By that time, it's all the fresh water around the earth. So maybe a type and shadow, but it's not, the event. So sorry, don't mean to be wet blanket.
Yeah, no, I wanted to bring it up because I wanted your perspective, and you guys are educating our viewers and listeners, so there may be a lot of people that don't know that. So
yeah, there's another reference in Revelation 9:14 about the four angels bound at the great river Euphrates. So that's another interesting point there. Those the fallen angels from Jude 1:6 that left their domain. It's worth asking. Yeah,
100%. Yeah, I have more physical evidence here to go with that. The rivers that turn blood red, that turn to blood. These witnesses have power to shut the skies so that no rain will fall during the days of their prophecy, and power to turn the waters into blood and strike the earth with every kind of plague as often as they wish. Revelation 11:16. And I have some examples here, pictures of river in Russia 2016 turned mysteriously red. In Japan 2023, river again mysteriously turned red. Argentina just recently, again a river turned red there. Just showing our viewers and listeners the slide there. That again the physical type of evidence that I'm referring to. Scientists do say that there are scientific explanations as to why some of the water would turn the color red and make it look an appearance of blood, and I agree with that 100%. There are scientific explanations, of course, but to also go into another slide here, I have hang on 1 second here. I want to make sure I got the right slide. Alright. Oh, here we go. This other physical evidence is there are dead fish popping up all over the world. Not just here, but like all over the world. There's pictures here on the slide for viewers and listeners to see. 2023, Gulf of Texas. There's in Revelation 16, the second angel poured his bowl into the sea, and it became like the blood of a corpse, and every living thing died that was in the sea. And there's another part here that says, A third of the living creatures in the sea died, and a third of the ships were destroyed. Revelation 8:9. Another picture here, Lake Ontario, just recently, 2025, where a lot of dead fish just started popping up to the top of the water. And scientists even say with the fish that are popping up and dying all over the place, they said the waters are very hot. We've had a very hot summer. Water temperatures are abnormal. So that makes me kind of link that part of things like with Revelation. And so go ahead, guys, whoever wants to go first.
Let me add something, not so much about the dead fish, but just the idea of rivers drying up. It actually does feature pretty prominently in multiple passages about the last days. Another one that's just worth mentioning, because it does fall right into this, is Isaiah 19. It talks about the Lord coming on a swift cloud. So whenever you see Yahweh coming on a cloud, this is always day of the Lord language. But he's specifically coming to Egypt in judgment. And the significant part of Isaiah 19 is about the Nile drying up. And as a result of the Nile drying up, the economy of Egypt, of course, Egypt is the most populous Arab nation in the world, over 100 million people there. Nothing, like Syria, Lebanon, none of them are anything compared to the population. Everything hinges on that Nile. If that thing dries up, you're not going to have 2 million refugees pouring into Europe. You're going to have 30 million, 20 million, so you think of the geopolitical ramifications, but they've just finished. They've just finished the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam. They've been working on this for, well over a decade. And so during the time that they're working on this, so the idea is the Ethiopians and the Sudanese, the Africans have a right to the Nile just as much as the Egyptian or Arab owners of Egypt, Sudan and Ethiopia have as much of a right as Egypt does. So they built this dam. There have been numerous ecological studies commissioned by all these different lobby groups to understand the ecological impact. We have no idea what it's going to do. So when they built the Aswan Dam, this was like the modern marvel of engineering, and it was like an ecological disaster. All of the rich silt of the Nile that usually the flood zones and fertilized and everything, all that just backed up in the Aswan Dam. Anyway, so all that to say is it's the Euphrates as well as the Nile is definitely something to watch over the next couple of years.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, Annalee, why don't you comment before I...
Oh, no, these are all signs of the times. I've noticed them. I think is it true the Sea of Galilee turned red? I think I saw that on some videos.
100% true. Yeah. And so much of this stuff, we all know this, right? You're going to see this, insanely dramatic photograph of this giant waterfall of blood in Antarctica, right? And then you dig a little bit deeper and, okay, here's the actual picture. It's like this little blotch of, red algae in some pool, and same thing with the Sea of Galilee. It's a red tide. It does happen, occasionally. But for sure, though, all this stuff is types and shadows. I mean, again, my opinion, it's not a matter of opinion, come on, we're ruining the earth, the human race. As a species, we handed the keys over to Satan, and of course it's going to be badly mismanaged. The human population, go on Google and, human population of Earth over the last 2,000 years, and, it goes like this for 1900 years, and then right around the year 1900, oh my gosh, like that. That alone is going to put extreme, strain on our planet, right? So, just, types and shadows. The really dramatic stuff that's described in the book Revelation, and we kind of see it in Joel chapter 2 and Acts chapter 2, prophesied, right? Again, that stuff, the really, global scale, we're watching for that. That's where we can all kind of say, hey, it looks like the start of the Great Tribulation when a giant, meteor, I think it's the Taurid meteor shower, the whole other story, this gigantic chunk, hits the ocean, probably the Pacific, reasons for that, and, a third of the ships of the sea are destroyed, and a third of the sea life die. Yeah, that's a hint. Then we're in those times, and it's all cascading. It's just like the 10 plagues of Egypt were all kind of ecologically connected. They're all miraculous, points of God's wrath. Obviously, God was doing it, but there's also like kind of a natural cohesion to all of it, right? I think the same thing with the Revelation trumpets, the Revelation bowl judgments. If you look at it, see, a lot of end times teachers. I'm not sure about you, Annalie, or you, Joel, but a lot of end times teachers say, "Oh yeah, the Book of Revelation, it's not in chronological order." And if it's not, then the where the Bible says God's not the author of confusion, that's not true then, because 22 chapters, that's a lot of content. It is in chronological order. It's a complex chronology, but the 7 seals happen, then the 7 trumpets, then the 7 bowl judgments. And again, I think if you look at it, you'll see that they're all kind of related. It really makes sense, which means that the world will be able to explain it all away.
Yeah.
The world will be able to hold on to their even in the midst of the ultimate wrath of God on this earth since the days of Noah, the earth will be able, or the people on earth who are among the unrighteous, they're going to still be able to claim, oh, well, this is all just natural phenomena. They'll be able to hold on to their deception.
Right. Yeah, well, like I said, there are scientific explanations out there, and scientists have come forward, with their results and finding that, it could look biblical, but, there are scientific reasons behind them. I just wanted to bring it up because, like you said, it's foreshadowing, like what's in Revelation. So, like you said,
and this is what people are talking about. So, gosh, Matt, spot on.
Yeah, no.
Good question.
What do you guys think, speaking of the trumpets, I'm glad Ryan, you brought up trumpets because there are a lot of videos out there that people are experiencing the sounds of trumpets from the sky. My wife and I personally had an experience a couple years ago, believe it or not. We were on by our bedroom window, and all of a sudden we were hearing this loud noise coming from the sky, and it was just super weird, felt weird. We knew it was not natural whatsoever. We didn't think it was mechanical, not an airplane. And I said, I hate to say it, but it almost reminds me of the sound of trumpets. And there's a lot of people that recorded, there's a video from London, over the span of the last few years, people just posting about the sounds of trumpets from the sky. Whoever wants to go first, Annalie, Joel, have you guys heard about that?
Let you go first.
Joel. They're going to make me go first because it's one of those questions oh God, what do we do with this?
Yeah.
So I have seen the videos. My sister sends them to me, right? And it's eerie, and you think, okay, maybe some of these are hoaxes. I don't think it's all hoaxes. I mean, Matt, you're the first person I've met in person that's actually experienced it. Yeah. So that tells me right there, there's a real phenomenon. Maybe it's natural causes, maybe it is supernatural, maybe it's kind of God, maybe, warning us, hey, these times are coming. Again, the first actual trumpet, the first of the 7 trumpets in the book of Revelation, it's the beginning of Revelation chapter 8. That describes a meteor shower like we've never seen before. It burns up there's so many meteors that it burns up a third of the trees around the whole earth, burns up all the green grass. So as far as the trumpets, no, that's not going on. What those are, I don't know about you, Annalie and Joel, but I'd love to hear those trumpets, those noises myself. I mean, it sounds cool.
Very eerie, very eerie.
Yeah. So Joel and Annalie, did I handle that okay? Was that?
I think so. Yeah.
How about you, Annalie? Have you heard anything?
I have not. I've seen a couple of videos of it, but I haven't really looked into it. But it's very fascinating for sure.
Yeah, it's kind of scary because when you hear the sound, you're like, oh my God! Like if you're a Godzilla fan, like me, I'm like, is Godzilla coming? How about you, Joel?
Yeah, I don't know. I just chalked that up to I don't know. And the older I get, by the way, the more that I have a lot of just, I don't know, the old gospel song, we will understand it better by and by. Yeah, I'm fine with it. I'll figure it out afterwards, but until then, it's just in the folder of I have no idea.
Yeah, like Paul says, right now we see through glass darkly, so yeah, good point.
All right, we're going to get into another favorite part of this, more physical evidence. Here we go. Hang on. I have it here. Your thoughts on the red heifers?
Yeah, so interestingly, we were part of the team, the Faith and Friction team was there when they discovered those red heifers in Texas. So we have the footage there. The rabbis were there inspecting them. Stinson, what's his name? Byron Stinson is the one my father-in-law is very close friends with, actually called my father-in-law to see if he knew anyone that had raised red heifers. And in fact, the farmer, the rancher, said he was breeding these for the last days. And so the fact that they were found there, they found some, they flew to Israel. Just recently, there was this sacrifice, July 1st, 2025, a practice sacrifice that was conducted. And these ashes are used for the cleansing of the temple artifacts and the vessels before the tabernacle or the temple is built. But there was this sacrifice that was done, the first one in 2,000 years. And this just recently happened, which is very prophetic. The Temple Institute disqualified it and said it's not official. But what's interesting is Byron made this comment that said that it was done according to the letter of Scripture. And so does it qualify if it's done according to Scripture but not rabbinic tradition found in the Mishnah? And yeah, that's a question to ask, because who determines that? Do y'all, Ryan, Joel, do y'all have any information on that?
Yes, but I'm gonna let Joel go first.
The only thing I'm aware of is I saw the bit with this fellow, I forget his name, but he goes by Awesome Jew on X. He was on the Timcast and just 2 days ago, and he claims that the folks that sacrificed it kind of fooled everyone. Like, they got permission to do a practice run, but they went ahead and did it properly with a proper blameless, or whatever it is, not a blameless, but a spotless red heifer. And he held up a little baggie of ashes, and he claims that, that I forget, from each cow they end up with a fairly large, like, gallon plus of ashes or more. Maybe it's a couple gallons. He had a little bit. He claims that they are using it for healing rituals and that people are being healed of all kinds of things. I'll just say this, with the explosion of anti-Semitism, just the discussion of these things is stirring up rage. What is interesting as well is the name of the attack on October 7th from Hamas was Operation Al-Aqsa Flood, because they had heard that these sacrifices were about to take place, and they felt as though they needed to stop it to protect Al-Aqsa Mosque, which is on the Temple Mount, not the Golden Dome Mosque, but the lead domed. So it's the convergence of Christian interest in Texans, raising cows, and Jewish sacred laws, and Islamic hatred and paranoia, and it's all coming together. So, again, you got the guy up in Syria, you've got the explosion of anti-Semitism, you've got Trump in office, you've got literal discussion of the Jews having more control of the Temple Mount. All of these things, they're all kind of converging for sure.
Yeah, I think we're in the last days. What do you guys think?
Definitely.
So
that was going to be my very last question of the interview.
Are we in the last days? I mean, come on.
Let me ask Chat.
Huh?
Let me ask ChatGPT if we're in the last days. That was a joke.
Yeah, right. Yeah, AI knows.
Yeah,
knows all.
Yeah.
So that's exactly right. What Joel just said, that October 7, 2023. I think it was 2 days later, if that, there was actually a video put out by Hamas. And I hate to admit it, but I kind of know those guys. I've been to Gaza City. I have actually met Hamas. I've been interrogated by him, and it was them. It was really them that put this out. And 100% said from Hamas themselves what Joel just said, that their number one provocation, in fact, the only provocation this guy named was the Jews have the red cows, is how he put it, right? Yahya Sinwar, who was one of the multiple Hamas leaders, they go through them pretty quick. If you're looking for a job, I hear that, sorry, that's terrible. Anyways, he came out in a speech another, like a month or two after that, said the same thing. That was their number one provocation, by far. Listen, advice to my two, colleagues here. If you guys want to explode your following, do an episode on the red heifers. I don't get why everybody's so excited about the. I mean, I get it, but it's really just one piece of a very big puzzle. Like Joel, like you were just saying, there's all these other things going on, right? But for 2 years, I've tried to get traction on TikTok. My 16-year-old daughter, Skylar, she's gotten good at. She gave me a couple pointers, but about a week and a half ago, I did a TikTok about the red heifers. I think I'm up to 30,000 views now on that one video, and looks like I'm rolling on TikTok now. People are just obsessed with it. So here's the thing, right? So it was Wednesday, August 6th, that Adam Berkowitz, very well-known guy in this sphere. He's a journalist, author, Jewish. He's over there. He announced, or he reported what the Temple Institute had announced the day before on Tuesday, August 5th. So we're talking about a couple of weeks ago, that there are no more qualified red heifers. This is what the Temple Institute came out and said. They said, sorry, we disqualified all 5 of them, and including the one that had just been ritually slaughtered on July 1st, like Annalee was saying. And then the day after that, on Thursday, August 7th, there were all these videos popping up, and it was reporting, Annalee, on what Byron Stinson. And I have a screenshot of his announcement, what he made. Hey, this was the first real thing in 2,000 years, and we did everything to precise Torah specifications. This was a perfect red heifer slaughter. We collected the ashes. So this started this rumor on the internet, huge. My gosh, it blew up. That the ceremony is done, the ritual is complete. They've got the ashes. So I have a friend there, Rabbi Yitzhak Mamo. He's with Boneh Israel. Very good friends with Byron. He's part of it too. Byron is, and these are the guys who brought over Byron's 5 red heifers in September 2022. So I reached out to him immediately. Hey, Rabbi Mamo, is this true? No more red heifers? And it wasn't until the following Saturday and I'm thinking, okay, bummer. Following Saturday, he writes back. He says it's not true. We still have 2 fully qualified red heifers. Okay, so but then there was this other rumor, like I said, that that Byron had inadvertently begun, and so I tracked him down. Shockingly, he says he never takes phone calls. He's got staff to handle that. But on a whim, I wrote to him. Hey, can we talk? He immediately wrote back. Turns out he was in Chattanooga helping his son move into a dorm for college. He was bored, so he said, I thought I'd call him. We talked for 30 minutes, and this was last Tuesday, literally last Tuesday, so 5 days ago. Phenomenally great guy. Annalee, I guess your dad knows him personally. Really nice guy. And he told me, he said, I didn't mean it like that. People are misconstruing. It was not the official ceremony. Just like Rabbi Mamo says, the official ceremony, the red heifer that they slaughtered may not have even been kosher. Some people are saying it had more than 1 black hair. But even if it was kosher, it was not slaughtered at the proper location, which is a little plot of land on the Temple Mount, peering right into the door of the Dome of the Rock, where the third temple has to be built, will one day stand. That's a bold statement to make. It's factual, right? And this was done somewhere over in Samaria, like the west, kind of out toward the west bank. I don't know where it was, near Shiloh, who knows? And so just the location alone. Now, Byron's point that, rabbinical tradition, well, I wouldn't minimize it like that, because two things, the Talmud, that was the rabbinical rights. Much more to the point, Maimonides in the 12th century penned the Mishnah Torah. It's like a 25-volume set. It's huge. I have a few of them. And Maimonides, what he was putting to paper is the oral Torah, all the stuff that the Jews had not written down that they take just as seriously as the Torah and the Tanakh. So it doesn't matter what we as evangelical Christians think or believe. It's what the Jews themselves believe. So Byron confirmed it. Rabbi Mamo says, the Temple Institute says, until this thing is done on this spot on the Mount of Olives, looking into the front door of the Dome of the Rock, it is not the official ceremony. Byron was with Rabbi Mamo 14 years ago when he purchased this plot of land. I've been to the land. I didn't know what it was at the time, but I've been right by there. So as far as the Temple Institute saying there's no more qualified red heifers, that's a whole other can of worms. He told me the inside track. He asked me not to publicize it. Let me just summarize. It's a soap opera. That's all. They need to find some agreement. B'nai Israel and the Temple Institute. B'nai Israel, Byron, Mamo, they have 2 qualified red heifers. The Temple Institute's not on board yet. You guys are going to love me. I mean, I'll tell you guys what I find out. I think I've got a phone call with Yitzhak Reuven tomorrow from the Temple Institute. He's a current director. I'm friends, like I met in person, with the 2 previous directors, Rabbi Chaim Richman and Rabbi Yehuda Glick, phenomenally great guys. So I'll be talking to, Yitzhak Reuven. If I get that phone call, how about if I make you guys the first ones to know? I'll send an email.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Yeah, Annalie.
That's where we're at with it.
Yeah, Annalie, how was your team's experience with the visit over there? Like, what was that like?
I don't think I actually personally declined to go that day because it was very cold. It was in January. The rest of the team went, and I don't think they had realized the significance of it really until afterward. But yeah, so this is like a first domino, you could say, of this end time. Like, the Antichrist will sit in a temple, so this kind of opens that, as a first domino for that. So it's not like we believe that we know Jesus was the final sacrifice. This has nothing to do with salvation. This is just has to do with keeping our eyes on these events that are going to happen in the last days. And also, God isn't done with Israel, and I believe that he's working that out with them as well. And so this is just something to keep our eyes on. And I think that's why there's such an interest in it these days, is because, especially, will they tell us when that sacrifice will happen, when we know that October 7th was a huge reason why they attacked. So I feel like whenever it does happen, if this practice one was not the one, I don't think we're going to get that much of a heads up. We'll see, but
yeah. Well, like they say, we're not going to know like when it's going to actually happen.
10 seconds. I'll be fast. Again, that spot on the Mount of Olives, it is so like out in the open. I mean, they're not going to be able to hide it. I think we'll get very little like heads up. I mean, I don't think they're going to announce it ahead of time, like you're saying, for sure. But for sure, they're going to see them gathering up there. Yeah. Here comes the truck. Here's the red heifer. And it's going to be so much out in the open.
Yeah.
But yeah, we won't know until half an hour before it takes place. So.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. It's not like we're all going to be throwing a party. So, but
maybe after the fact.
Yeah, maybe after the fact, right? We crammed so much in like so little time. I can't believe how much we covered. I hope I covered a lot of what was on the questionnaire I sent you guys and the outline. I think we did cover for the most part. So yeah, like where the current events are, like if you could compare on a scale of 1 to 10, like where we're at, like if you had a scale, like what number would you say, like as far as like at the start of things where we're literally at? Because I think that's what a lot of people want to really know, So Annalie, you go first.
So 10 being like we are at the last trump, or
Right.
Or,
Yeah.
okay. Oh wow. I would say maybe a 6.
A 6,
6
really?
or 7.
Okay. Yeah.
6 or 7.
Okay. All right. Ryan?
If we're talking about 10 being maybe like that close to the 7-year Great Tribulation starting, I'd say we're like 512. I would say, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Depends on what 10 means, Emily, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, come on, all the signs are there. For this stuff to break loose, Israel has to be a nation again, 1948. Syria has to be a nation again, 1961. The Jews have to be, ostensibly in control of the Temple Mount, 1967, right? The Jews have to be ready to build the third temple. Red Heifer, we were just talking about, the Temple Institute. They have all the, instruments, et cetera, et cetera. They've got the priests. They've been training them. The Daniel 9:27 peace treaty, maybe the Abraham Accords, looking more and more like it. The Prince of the Covenant in Daniel chapter 9, Daniel chapter 11. I think Jared Kushner, really, I'm sticking to my guns on that one. And again, the Antichrist, I mean, I just hate to pin on it. He seems like a nice guy to me, but I hate to pin it. But just, keep an eye on Ahmad al-Shara in Damascus.
Yeah.
So we're right there.
Yeah.
On the timeline, I think we're between the 5th and 6th seals.
Okay. And
So
Joel,
almost to the end of this
and
period.
Joel, what's your thought on that, like on the scale of 1 to 10?
I wouldn't know how to. I would know how to rate it on a scale of 1 to 10. My framework for viewing all of these things is the last days. When I read it about in the scriptures, when I try to detach myself from popular Christian prophecy culture, and when I read how the church has written about these things throughout history, the early church fathers, or really anyone who's written on these things, the last days is framed as the final test of our faith as a community, as the church, and as individuals. All of life is filled with tests and tribulations, but this is the final one. And it's more than that, it's an opportunity for us to bear witness to the world concerning the nature of who God is. Even as Jesus laid down his life and died, he was mutilated for his enemies. We will have an opportunity also to imitate our master. And this whole modern Christian culture it despises the embracing of the cross. The message is primarily about, it's been modified to really just be another in any series of religious self-therapeutic, self-embetterment type of projects. But the gospel that I read, the Christianity that I read is take up your cross and follow me every day. So for me, it's just a matter of living with a sense of readiness and urgency. Okay, sorry, I had to just do the basic, just like both Annalee and Ryan, I'm looking at so many things. To me, probably the most significant of them all is the sudden, absolute, I mean, it's always been here, but the explosion of Jew hatred. And not just hatred, like legitimate criticism of Israel in small ways, but irrational conspiracy theories. This is the oldest hatred, and it's the most convenient hatred. It's so easy, whether it's the communists, whether it's the Nazis, whether it's anyone, just to blame this little minority people group. They're the cause for all of our problems, and to put everything on them, especially just after this moment of utter, absolute national catastrophe and trauma. And they're looking out saying, who's going to stand up for us? Who are our neighbors? And I'm just looking at that. You want to talk about, the president of Syria, or, the Abrahamic Accords, or so many different things. I'm looking at the explosion of anti-Semitism as one of the biggest signs. And then I would just add, as a sort of slightly personal side note, I've been involved the past few years and going to Saudi Arabia, bringing groups there to go see what I believe is the real Mount Sinai. I believe that's a massive major sign. Biblically speaking, the story of the return of Jesus. And let me just add this too as a balancing point. The Bible frames the last days, everything we're talking about, like the Great Tribulation, the mark of the beast, the Antichrist, all of these things are just the birth pains.
Yeah.
You know, but it's like we as Christians, we have all these conferences like, hey, everyone, let's gather around. We're going to talk about the birth pains for this weekend. And I go, okay, but God wants us to understand these things and to be familiar. When my wife and I when she had her first baby, you know, I went to the little Maz classes. I learned how to breathe and, you know, and all these different things. But the reality is the focus is on the birth. The focus is not on the birth pains. I don't come home from work every day and say, honey, the birth pains are almost here. I'm so excited, you know.
My wife would have killed me.
Yeah, well, even for thinking these things, I'm afraid. But
yeah, right.
The birth and then the kingdom that comes, the coming of the Lord and the kingdom and the restoration of all things, that's the biblical focus. And that's really where our focus should be. He wants us to be paying attention, to be ready to bear witness, to be, you know, the Greek word for witnesses is martus, from where martyr, to be his faithful witnesses, if necessary, to stand as good neighbors with our Jewish friends and neighbors globally as the national satanic hatred is sweeping, and just to pay attention. So I'm really cautious of, because here's the thing, when you're people like us who are staring at these things all day, it feels like it's right here.
Yeah.
And it really increasingly does feel that way, but we all have our timelines, we've got it all figured out, and then we realize the Lord did, you know, reveal these things to us as we're studying the scriptures. But what we didn't realize is that he revealed this timeline to us on a rubber band, and then the Lord goes, woo! We're like, you know, and the years have a way of kind of rolling on, and all of a sudden 10 years go by. So timing, I'm always careful. I'm just looking at the signs right now, and I feel a profound sense of urgency.
Yeah.
Wow. Good word.
Yeah, no, 100%. Just real quick, guys, I just want to throw this out here because I don't want to ignore our audience and listeners and people who are watching this podcast today. I want to thank everybody in the chat. There's actually quite a few people. We have like over 20 people in the chat room, like going back and forth, believe it or not. So throwing comments around. So I just want to thank everybody. We even have people from Canada watching. I'm like, thank you, Canada.
Oh my gosh, wow.
Yeah.
Long ways away.
Yeah, right? So everybody, you know, a couple of people are saying, God bless Joel Richardson. Obviously, there's some followers of yours that are there in the chat. And hopefully everybody's enjoying the show so far. I can't believe we're at like 4:30 already. We've been covering a lot of things. I want to make sure I leave a lot of room because there's 4 of us here today. Guys, what do you have coming up? Annalie, do you have any projects, events, or anything you'd like to promote on your podcast, topics, guests? You know, feel free. You got the floor right now.
Yeah, we're going to have Laura Sanger on 1st of September, so that'll be awesome to have her talk about some really fascinating topics. We have this book that's coming out early next year, so we're excited for that. And also, I'm a worship leader and singer-songwriter, so I have a new single coming out next month I'm excited about.
Nice. Congrats.
Yeah.
Cool.
But, you know, God's doing amazing things, and he's put us on this timeline of the end times, and he's chosen us to be here. So, like, that's an honor and a privilege that he's entrusted this to us.
Amen.
And so I encourage everyone not to let this discourage you or scare you, but really just awaken something in you, this urgency to look in the scriptures, to get to know the Lord and the Holy Spirit. There's hope in this. Revelation says that we overcome by the blood of the Lamb, the word of our testimony, and we love not our life to death. And so this is good news for everyone, that the King is coming, and there's no better news than that. So this is a great time to be in.
Yeah, and I'm glad you guys can participate in today's show to be a part of that, and you know, hopefully we enlighten people, you know, with all the information that we gave everybody today. Joel, what do you have going on? What's coming up? Any promotions? Any projects? Other than you want to plug your new book, and anything else going on?
No, I'll be in Sarasota at End Times this Saturday coming up, and get to visit my mom when I'm there. And then I get home Monday, and I'll have my new books and start getting those out. So other than that, I will just say this, I'm excited. I'm bringing, in October, we've got 3 archaeologists from Shiloh, Gary Bach, Dr. Gary Byers is the head of the Associates of Biblical Research, one of the most prestigious biblical archaeological research organizations, as well as Scott Stribling and Stephen Rudd, who they're all there at Shiloh, are going to we're just going to look, show them the mountain there in Saudi Arabia. My hope is that, that there'll begin to be some credentialed digs and studies. I genuinely believe this is going to be one of, I believe it's going to be the single greatest biblical archaeological discussion in history over the next few years.
Wow.
The Exodus has always been the sort of elusive golden chalice of that world, and I believe all the evidence is just sitting right out there in the desert. So that's really exciting.
Nice, that's awesome. So we're looking forward to that, definitely. Ryan, how about you? What are you up to? What you like to promote, plug? What's coming up? The third book is out, right?
No, it's not. Yeah, you said that earlier, but I've shown you excerpts of the book, so that's why you've read like little bits and pieces of it.
All right.
No, but yeah. So first of all, I'm going to go to Saudi Arabia with Joel. I'm not invited, but I'm just going to show up. So that sounds so cool. That sounds great, Joel. But yeah, my main focus right now is getting part 3 out. I wish I was like 1/10 as prolific a writer as Joel is. I've been writing for 25 years, and again, just part 3 of my one book series. So it's called These Final Days, part 1 and part 2. They are bestsellers. I mean, for our genre, which is eschatology, small genre. You can find them on Amazon. But if you go to thesefinaldays.org, you'll see my research trips, my teaching videos, easy access to the books. I teach a live stream class every other week. Actually, I have to work for a living. I'm a software engineer, so I don't have as much time as I'd like for all this stuff. But part 3, I'm definitely going to publish before the end of this year. And I'm working on the conclusion right now. It's taken me forever to write the conclusion because I decided I've got to, say what, report to people what I've been, studying and following about Ahmad al-Shara. As goofy as it sounds, but this is just me personally. I feel like a responsibility, just get it out there. I'm not saying he's the guy, but pay attention,
Mm-hmm.
So other than that, once I'm done with the book, I'm planning my next research trip, and I'm going back to Lebanon. I spent a couple weeks there, a couple years ago, and then doing everything I can, making every effort to get into Damascus, and I'll kind of leave it at that. But that's basically it. Just doing the ministry thing. Married a beautiful wife, have a wonderful 16-year-old daughter, and life keeps me busy and happy. I'm blessed.
God bless. Yeah. I want signed autographs from all you guys. I want a copy of each of your books.
Hey, you got it.
Yeah. All right. All right. We've been covering a lot of things here. We're getting to the bottom of the 2-hour mark. Want to make sure I just leave enough time for me covering all the questions that I did. I think we did a pretty damn good job. I think this has been great. Again, I think it's about, teaching, speaking of teaching, I know Ryan does classes. They put out a lot of types of classes and video educational stuff. Joel and Annalie, do you guys do any kind of classes or things like that?
Other than the podcast, no, not really. I mean, I do a couple of episodes on my own, on my personal YouTube, but mainly most of my stuff is with Faith and Friction.
Okay. Yeah. How about you, Joel?
I actually do. I'm really excited. This is actually the first time that I'm doing this level of a class. So again, next Monday, not Monday tomorrow, but next Monday I'll get my books, and then September 1st I'm going to start a class that'll be at least a year, which is just a much deeper dive. So again, a survey of messianic prophecy, and we'll be discussing all kinds of other peripheral fun things like the Nephilim and their sort of role in the unfolding story of redemption. So I'll be doing, each week I'll release at least 1 or 2 teaching videos with a couple articles. And this is basically, so Ryan, as an author, whenever I write a book, let's say the book is this big, all of the stuff that I wrote while writing this book, but realized, I have to cut that, set it aside, that's this much. So every time I write a book this big, I end up with all this material, and a lot of it ends up just disappearing in my files. So this time I said, no, listen, I'm gonna actually take this stuff and take the time to refine it and turn it all into teachings and articles. So I'm excited. It's just
awesome.
Overview of the gospel, and then I'll be doing like live Zoom Q&As and trying to allow for personal interaction and answering questions and all that. I'm excited.
Yeah, that's excellent. Fortunately, my step is like a contiguous book series. Again, I'm only up to part 3, but so how I deal with that, Joel, is everything I'm editing and can't fit into part 3 is getting pushed into part 4. And I think like a month after I publish part 3, I'll be able to publish part 4. So, so I feel you, man.
I love, you guys have to watch Aaron and Ryan together when they do lectures and classes, because they're the funniest together, and the way they approach their audience and their lectures and classes is like, I love how you interact with everybody, and, you listen to everybody, and how you approach everybody there, and it's just, your videos are very...
I'll give a little plug to my twin brother. So he's just recently started to get involved with my ministry. I've been at this, again, 25, 26, 27 years. But it was on December 8, 2023 or 2024 with Al Shara. He jumped. It was 6 days later. The 666 thing occurred to him. It's really fascinating stuff. Definitely onto something. But anyway, so he's come and taught with me once or twice. This Thursday, I'm doing my regular class. Joe, I'm actually talking about Gog of Magog. Ezekiel chapter 38, 39, and also, Revelation, what it says there. But then the following Thursday, so a week from this Thursday, Aaron's going to join me again on the live stream. And it is. It's kind of like a little, comedy hour, and we have the exact same voice.
Yeah.
So it's a kind of surreal experience, I think. But
I love when you throw the candy at your audience. Like.
No, that's Aaron. I would never do that. That's so cheesy. He actually brought. He's a school teacher, so he's thinking. Yeah, he brought candy bars to throw at people. It's like, dude, it's a serious topic.
Yeah.
I have to ask, since you guys are brothers, which one can win in a fight?
That's definitely me. I'm also the better looking one, the smarter one, and I think I have more hair.
What I love is you can actually, like the brothers, they can be like 78 years old, and you ask that, they're like, I can take it. And 60 and spot.
Oh yeah, Joel, no joke. So seriously, it was just maybe a month ago was the only time Aaron actually taught in person with me on the live stream. It's funny, Matt remembers it. Everybody loves Aaron. It drives me nuts. But this upcoming one in a week and a half, you guys are going to think I'm joking. We have had conversations, Aaron and I, about how we're not going to fight in front of people. We're turning 58 next month. But we're still,
yeah.
So you're right. Started in the womb like Jacob and Esau.
Nice.
Nice. Who gets to get out first?
Yeah. What I like to do with my guest guys is like towards the end of the show is like I'm the interviewer, right? And I get to ask all the like hard questions and throw out the good questions. But now I'm gonna give you guys the floor. If you guys have questions for each other, like so this way, like it makes it fun for the audience and viewers to learn from you guys. Other than me asking you questions, you guys have questions for each other because you guys come from different backgrounds. So I'm sure you may have one or two things in there. So whoever wants to go first.
Now you're making us all shy.
I have a question, especially talking about Gog and Magog. And I'm seeing this imagery of carcasses and vultures and these birds feasting on these bodies, right? I was looking at Luke 17, I believe it's Luke 17:37, where one's taken, one is left, and the disciples ask Jesus, where are they going? And he responds, wherever the carcass is, there the eagles will be gathered, which is the same language in the aftermath of the Battle of Armageddon.
Exactly.
There's an imagery there that you just can't cross-referencing, you can't dismiss. So do y'all have any insights on that?
You go first.
Joel, you first.
Yeah.
Are you sure?
Yeah, you go first.
Okay. So yeah, it's funny. There are so many things that come out of my mouth that get me in trouble. Like I told you guys, kind of my core, calling focus is the timing of the rapture, which you guys know is like the ultimate, hot button topic in eschatology, Christian eschatology. But yeah, another thing that gets me in trouble is when I talk about the marriage supper of the Lamb, Revelation chapter 19, because, and I very rarely bring this up because it just really is, like taking away people's, warm fuzzies. that's what it's describing. I mean, the angels come, and call the birds to the great feast, and this is like in the context of the marriage supper of the Lamb. The marriage supper of the Lamb is the birds of the air feeding on the carcasses of all those who are killed, the unrighteous in the Battle of Armageddon. At least that's what I think I'm seeing. And this I love what you just brought up, Ann Lee, because just again, shout out to my fellow post-tribbers. We're becoming like a larger breed now. There's a lot of people catching on to this, right? But a lot of people like point to that as a this is one is taken, that's the rapture, but that's not what it's describing. The one who's taken, it's a bad thing. They're taken, like you said, to this context of being killed in the the final battle of the War of Armageddon. So but anyways, if you don't want to lose followers, don't say that the marriage supper of the Lamb is birds eating corpses. It's not a Go ahead, Joel.
Oh, golly. So there's a lot here. First of all, so I always, whenever I'm in Revelation, I always want to know where this particular concept came from, because everything in the book of Revelation, it's just a crescendo drawing from direct quotes, citations, allusions, and echoes to the Old Testament. But when you get to this issue of the false prophet, the other beast that comes up out of the earth, that one's really hard to pinpoint in the Old Testament. However, there is this very interesting tradition. I believe it's in 2nd Esdras, which is an apocalyptic intertestamental book, where so you have this storyline throughout the Bible. I'm not talking about the false prophet, the second beast, but where it talks about Pharaoh in both Isaiah and Ezekiel as the sea serpent, again with scales. It's using that snake imagery, the sea serpent of the Nile, the serpent of the Nile, the dragon of the Nile. He's thrashing around in the Nile, making it muddy, saying, "The Nile is mine." Again, the Nile is the source of life, etc. But then through the Exodus, he is the slain dragon. He's left on the beach, so to speak. So it's playing off of what really happened. Pharaoh was really killed. His soldiers were killed. They're standing in there on the beach looking at the dead bodies. But then it's later poetically described as, it's like Satan, his body was cut up and left on the seashore. Well, so then in the intertestamental literature, it says in the end of days that the righteous, and so this is actually backing up what you're saying, Ryan. I don't think that this is like literal, but the idea is, you'll see it a lot in rabbinic stuff, but also, as I said, in 2nd Esdras and one other book, which I can't remember off the top of my head, where the righteous will feast on the bodies of the wicked, which is totally non-kosher. That's why you kind of go, huh? But anyways, Leviathan, or the sea serpent, he comes out of the sea and he's cut up. But then also you have this other beast called Behemoth. He comes up out of the earth, and he also will be feasted upon. So you have the sea creature and the earth creature. So that's a lot of the language that you see in the book of Revelation. I just find it fascinating. Again, you kind of parse through, like, well, what was accepted in Jesus's day, what was, believed by the Jews of his day, and this type of thing. But this language, I say it this way, is we are invited to the wedding feast, which, by the way, the precursor of that was the feast that Moses, Nadab, Aaron, and Abihu, the 70 representative elders of Israel, ate on Mount Sinai. So as the covenant of this betrothal covenant between God and Israel was sealed, they went up on the mountain, they ate, they looked up, they saw God's feet. That becomes the precursor to the marriage supper, which is then consummated on Mount Zion. In the last days, Isaiah 25 says, "On this mountain I'll throw a feast for all peoples," for all the Gentiles will be included. So you have that sort of picture anyway. But the marriage supper, it's this. The invitation goes out to the people on the highways and the byways, to everyone, come to the marriage supper, or you can refuse that and you'll become the supper.
Wow.
Either be feasted upon by the birds of the air, the beasts of the field, along with the Antichrist and his rebellious armies, or you get to go to the marriage supper. And it's kind of like, you have two choices there. So there's a lot more that could be said, but...
What if I don't want either one?
Yeah.
Right?
Did you say, what if you don't want either one?
Yeah.
They're both, So it actually says in Isaiah 25, it says, on this mountain I'll throw a choice feast. The new CSB translation says, a feast of aged wine. I always have to apologize to the Baptists. And then it says, and choice cuts of meat. That's just, I love the.
Oh my gosh! Wow,
Yeah.
choice cuts of meat. So this is great for me because next time I talk about the birds eating, I'm going to say Annalie and Joel, they're on the same page. You know, if you want the feel good, warm fuzzies, don't talk to like eschatology people. So.
Faith and friction. There you go.
Yeah. That had a little more friction though.
A little more. I agree.
Right. So I'm just noticing the time. I know it's way too late in the show, but yeah, we never got to the topic of the timing of the rapture. But I want to say that again. I'm super impressed, Joel. You were really one of the first ones ever out there, like as far as like actually having a large ministry like yours to stick your neck out. I mean, I think of with that topic. Who was the older gentleman passed away years ago? I can't think of his name now, but he had another good sized ministry, and you and him were kind of the only ones teaching post tribulation rapture. Annalie, I think your generation. I know that you're younger than me and Joel, but you guys seem to be really getting a hold of this, and it makes me happy to see that. I mean, we all know what 2 Thessalonians 2 says about the great apostasy. And just to throw it out there, I think that's really what the three of us and others in this vein are called to do. My motto for my ministry, I can't believe I'm saying this now at the end of the show, making the great apostasy a little less great. See, nobody laughs when I say it. It's supposed to be kind of funny. But yeah, making the great apostasy a little less great. But anyways, just, shout out to you guys for that. I think it's never easy to teach the truth when it's a hard truth. And you guys bless me. Saying that. Stay filled with the Holy Spirit. Nice. That's the main thing. Stay filled with the Holy Spirit.
We'll have to do a second part interview and cover the whole rapture and things that lead up to that. Because there was a lot of stuff that we didn't cover. Because there's only so much we can do in a couple hours. Especially with a roundtable. I want to make sure everybody gets time to get everything in. But I would love to do a second part with everybody.
Yeah, I can't believe it's been 2 hours already, man. This has been fun.
Yeah. So, all right, we have less than a few minutes, guys. What's your advice to people? I always like to whatever thoughts that you have for viewers and listeners. What's your thoughts and advice for people that want to study this, research this, or what's your guidance to people who are watching? So, Adelie, you go first.
Yeah, well, our younger generation, I think we're kind of tired of being told what to believe. And so I encourage you to just start in the Bible, start with the Gospels, and just ask the Holy Spirit to lead. That's where we gain our information from. It's not what you hear at Sunday school or even at Bible college. Honestly, just look in the scriptures for yourself. If you have a question, ask the Holy Spirit. You say, ask for wisdom, and it will be given. So I just encourage everyone to look into it for themselves and not believe what their pastor is telling them.
Yeah.
Wow.
Good. Joel?
Honestly, I just want to take the time just to thank Ryan and Annalie for your balanced, presentation. Just for being, Annalie, thank you for again reaching the younger generation. And Ryan, it sounds like you're a lot like me. You like to get out there and get your hands dirty, and it's not just theoretical. And Matt, thanks so much for having us on and doing this. And this was really enjoyable. So thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
No, thank you guys. I know there were some technical difficulties in the beginning of the interview, but halfway through it was the Wi-Fi. The Wi-Fi got better halfway through, so the second half of the show sounded a lot better. So
that was the good half. So that's fine.
Yeah, but like I said, that's why I wanted to say a prayer in the beginning, because you guys know how technology works.
Yeah, it's awesome. Yeah, good prayer.
Yeah.
So, and as far as your question, I can't add to any, what Annalie said. That was beautiful. And like I said earlier, I've got a 16-year-old daughter, younger than you, of course, but I think the same, Gen Z ish. Mm-hmm. It just blesses me to hear you guys talking like that. You love the word, you understand the indwelling of the Holy Spirit. I wasn't sure like how bad things will get in this vein, like the closer we get, but I'm seeing like kind of a revival, right, Joel? What'd you think?
Yeah, yes and no. I mean, it's there's good. We're going, hey, the younger generation's becoming much more conservative. When we go, cool, and then all of a sudden we go, they're like embracing Nazism, and I'm going, oh.
Well, some of them, yeah.
No,
Annalie,
not all.
yeah, you get a hold of your, peers, shake them,
Yeah.
wake up.
Yeah.
So true.
So, no, if you guys don't mind, just stay on for a couple more minutes. We'll say our goodbyes privately off the air, if you don't mind. I'm just gonna, play our video here for our viewers and listeners. I want to thank everybody for, being a part of today. Joel, Ryan, Annalie. It was great having you. It was inspiring, educational, hopefully informative for our viewers and listeners. Hopefully we got some great information out there. I know it was a little all over the place. It's a heavy topic, and my advice is, just learn. Learn what you can. Don't believe everything you see on the internet, because, things go viral, and it's not always the accurate information. So, do the research yourself, and, just do it for the right reasons. Do it for yourself, in your own heart, and that's all I can give advice for.
Good.
So you guys are the experts, not me. So, all right. So we're gonna go ahead and play our video. Yeah, play our video here, and you guys have a wonderful rest of your Sunday evening.